You knocked me down, you thought that I would be out, but I turned lost into found, I finally figured it out.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Chasing Success Podcast. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about the benefits of working remotely and why you should be a little bit more open to working remotely if you aren't right now. So some of the things that we're going to be talking about is productivity, work-life balance, and then environmental benefits. But I'm also probably, just to forewarn you, going to go into some rants because whenever I started this podcast, I really wanted to provide insights on how people can grow in their career, how they could grow in their life, and then also grow their business if they have a business. So I wanted to be able to provide specific and tangible things that they could take away and apply in their lives after listening to this podcast. Well, whenever I really thought about it, and I knew this for a long time, my true passion is about making the workplace better. And I know that that's a broad statement. And so over the next couple podcast episodes, I'm going to be focusing on making the workplace better. And I won't lie, I believe that eventually this podcast is going to be tailored to making the workplace better. Now, if you're familiar with this podcast, then you know that I have my own company, IMEO, which stands for Improving Management, Employees, and Organizations. So this really takes me down the hole of what I've been trying to do on a daily basis, living out my life, living out my purpose, living out my passion. So that's what I'm going to be doing here. And the title might change. The topics are definitely going to change. And we are going to be focusing on fixing work, because I truly believe that we're at a time and place where by 2025, the workplace is going to be the majority millennials and Gen Zs. And we can already see that whenever we talk about Gen Zs or millennials, we're talking about people who want to have a fulfilling and meaningful position. They want to know that what they do matters and what they do impacts the world for the better, right? And it's not just about having a mission or a vision, but it's actually living out that mission and vision through the behaviors that we have the employees doing, right? Or they're going to go off and start their own thing, which either way, honestly, to me, is a success. If we can make work better, or if we can create the new leaders who are focused on creating a better workplace, then we have succeeded. Now, the other thing that I'm going to be talking about in the next few episodes, and a little bit probably in this one, is that I am starting my own company, which I have IMEO. IMEO will eventually fade away in a sense. It might come back years later, but my main focus is what I'm focused on now, which is building a software specifically for remote and hybrid companies. Now, I'll get into detail on that a little bit later in different episodes. So I'm not going to talk about it too much here, but that's just another reason. The software that I'm building is going to make the workplace better through what we offer, but then also a lot of the information that we're going to be able to share through media outlets like this, as well as YouTube. So if you are interested in learning about making the workplace better, as well as following the journey of building this software as I go through this, definitely hit subscribe, follow us, whatever the case is, share it with anybody who you think would benefit from this. So let's go ahead and get into today's episode. Again, we're going to be talking about the benefits of working from home or working remotely, right? So working from home can have a positive impact, and the pandemic forcing many companies to adopt work from home policies has made us think a little bit differently about remote work. A lot of companies thought that they couldn't go fully remote. I remember whenever I was working at the IT staffing firm that I talk about a lot, it used to be a struggle to, or actually it would just be an automatic shutdown. If you said, hey, could I work remotely? They would say, no, we can't do that. it's not feasible, it's not possible. Even though there were a lot of people in the company working remotely, or they were traveling in different ways. It was part of a position. So that was already a lie. So they were lying to us as employees. Then whenever the pandemic happened, I haven't talked to anybody there, but I'm assuming that everybody went remote just like everybody else in the world did, right? So we're already starting off on the bad foot of companies lying to us saying, oh, we can't do that. But whenever it became a necessity, we found a way to do it. So anyway, I digress already. Apologies. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the benefits. So we're going to talk about 3 different benefits. And then if I come up with any more, which I might, we'll talk about those 2. But the first segment that we're going to be talking about is productivity. So one of the biggest benefits of working from home is increased productivity. When employees work from home, they are often able to focus better and minimize distractions. Plus, with no commute, they have more time to devote to work, and studies have shown that remote workers are often more productive than their in-office counterparts, right? There's a lot of people out there that are trying to say, oh, remote work does not create more productive employees. But as I was speaking with my advisor the other day about the software, my question was, okay, is working from home actually less productive? Or is it that we just don't know how to manage and lead remote workers? Because those are 2 different things, right? If we know how to manage and lead from a remote environment, then we can have extremely productive employees, right? So you have to start asking yourself these questions whenever it comes to comparison of in-office employees, hybrid environments versus remote environments. Because I don't think that it's strictly interpreted in the data saying that remote workers are less productive. In fact, we've seen that they're more productive. But a lot of these old school people, no offense to them, but it's just true. You grew up in an era where the only type of work that you knew and that you experienced was in office. So much like anything with uncertainty or not knowing what it really is like to work remotely for somebody who is starting out remote, you don't know what that experience is like. You're just comparing it to what you know, right? So anyway, so working from home, you can also create a more comfortable and personalized work environment, which also leads to higher job satisfaction and motivation, right? Now, there's a lot of underlining things whenever we're talking about remote work, because there are specific things that a company needs to make sure that they do for their remote workers, which is give them a stipend or pay for their cable or internet to be able to make sure that they have high-speed internet, right? Especially if there's multiple people working from home in the office or in the house, right? The more people you have on there, the less likely it is that if you don't have high-speed internet, that your internet is going to work appropriately. So that's one thing, right? The other thing is give them ergonomic equipment. Give them a standing desk or give them a stipend where they can buy a standing desk, right? That's the thing that we're talking about here is if an employee came into the office to work, what would you do? You would buy them a laptop, which, okay, most companies do that, if not all, even for remote workers. You would provide them a desk. You would provide them a chair. You would provide them the things that they needed to do or to have to be successful, right? Do the same thing in a remote environment to get the most benefit out of it. Okay. Remote workers can customize their workspace to their liking, adjust the lighting, the temperature, and work in an environment that suits their individual needs. This is something that whenever I started working remotely, it was amazing because I was one of those guys that would go into the office. I work out in the morning, so I would work out, drive home, take a quick shower, put my suit on, go into the company, and the office would be so hot all the time. So I just always felt uncomfortable. I was sweating. I thought I was sweating through my suit. That's not something that I have to worry about at home. I can set my own temperature, right? I also have fans in front of me, right? So I could have done that in the office. That's what people will say. But fans only do so much. If it's hot in there to me, then the fans are going to blow hot air, right? So it's a way for people to be more comfortable whenever they work. Plus, what I'm wearing now, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm wearing a sweatsuit. Like every day in the office, I was wearing a suit, a tie, dress shoes, all that stuff, right? So throughout the day, especially after I ate, I started feeling uncomfortable. And so a lot of my work was more so like trying to relax my body versus working from home where I can be comfortable. And the more comfortable I am, the better work outputs that I'm going to deliver. All right. So that's productivity. That's one, right? And I told you kind of my pet peeves of people saying that remote workers aren't as productive, even though the studies show that they are. And if there are studies out there that show that remote workers are not productive, but rather than saying that these people aren't productive, you have to ask yourself, have we supplied the right resources for these people to be as productive as possible? Have we provided the right onboarding in a remote environment? Because it's more strategic. You have to be more intentional whenever you're in a remote environment. Okay. Have we provided them the equipment? Have we provided them the right onboarding, the training, the enablement sessions? Have we provided them the right software tools? Have we showed them how to use those tools? These are all the things that you have to do in a remote environment. You should be doing it in a physical location, yes. But if you are not doing it in a remote environment, it's not necessarily that these people aren't as productive. It's that you aren't as effective and intentional with what you're trying to get these people to do. So make sure that you're doing that if you see that your remote workers are not as productive, because studies show they should be more productive. Anyway, I digress. Again, I'll probably say that multiple times. Apologies. So let's go ahead and go into work-life balance, which is segment 2. Another benefit of working from home is the ability to achieve a better work-life balance. Now, my advisor and Satya, from the CEO of Microsoft, they like to say, instead of work-life balance, work-life harmony. And the reason that they say that is because with balance, if you think about like a beam or a seesaw, right? The balance has to be equal for it to make sense. But with harmony, your work and your life have to blend together in the best way that matches what you are trying to accomplish as a person, professionally and personally, right? But whenever we talk about work-life balance or work-life harmony from a remote work perspective, you don't have to commute. So remote workers have more time for personal activities and family responsibilities. They can also schedule their work around their personal lives, making it easier to attend appointments or take care of a household or household task. The thing with this is it's the simple things, right? Whenever I worked in a physical location, I was far enough away. I was close enough to drive without it being like a huge task, but I was far enough away where it didn't really make sense for me to go home to eat lunch. I would pack my lunch, don't get me wrong, or I would go out to eat. But if I wanted to go home, or if I had to go home, like whenever we got Zola, which is our dog, for the first time, I would go home and I would let the dog out. Barely had time to eat because I had to go back before I ran out of my lunchtime. So those are like those little stresses that are added whenever you make people come into the office, right? So just think about that as a leader or a manager. If you're requesting your people back into the office, how much are you harming their ability to have a work-life harmony that matches their perception of what that is, not yours? That's the other thing. Remote work allows people to structure their job and their life in a way that matches what they do, not necessarily what the expectations of a 9-to-5 in office position does. And the reason that I'm passionate about this part is because work is no longer a 9-to-5 position, right? We need to stop thinking about number of hours worked, and we need to start focusing on the outcomes that are produced, the outputs that are produced by the people working, right? Imagine this, I could be wrong, so fact check me and correct me, but I believe that Jeff Bezos, whenever he was CEO of Amazon, if he's not already back as CEO again, but whenever he was CEO of Amazon, what he would do is he would wake up on his own time. He would, I think he called it like meandering or wandering, and kind of just like fiddling around to around like 10 o'clock. And then his workday would really start. And then he only had meetings from 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. And then the other stuff would be whatever he had to do that day, but they would not include meetings. And so think about that. If he is the CEO of Amazon and he's doing that because it is shaped the way that he can do his best work, why are we not allowing employees who can work remotely? I should put that in there because not everybody can work remotely. My wife is a nurse. She's about to be an NP. She has to be in the office or she has to be at the hospital. So I'm not talking about those people, right? People who can, these are knowledge workers, right? People who can work remotely. If you as the CEO or you as a manager or you as a leader are doing things the way you want to do them and you're restricting your employees the ability to do that, think how backwards that is, right? That's a double standard. And the reason you do it isn't because you have the power or the authority. Hopefully not. If you are doing that, you're probably a bad manager. But you're doing it because it makes the most sense for you to get the most out of the work that you have to do, right? So just think about that. All right. Just continuing on work-life harmony, work-life balance. Remote work can reduce stress and burnout, right? That's going to lead to a healthier work-life harmony. It's going to lead to a better interaction with the employee and the organization, which is also called job satisfaction. And we know that through studies, whenever an employee has higher job satisfaction, they typically have higher job performance, they have higher performance ratings, and they have better managerial relationships, right? So all of these benefits are tied to the way that we allow people to work. And the best way that we see is to give people the ability to, and this is where hybrid working environments are great. In theory, we still haven't nailed it down. In theory, it's great because as a hybrid environment, if an employee wants to come into the office, they can come into the office. If they don't and they want to work from home, they can work from home. If they want to work outside of the home, but they don't want to go into the office, they can go into a coffee shop or a place that they feel will motivate them that day, right? It might be working out of a camper van. It might be working at the beach. The ability to give your employees choices is going to significantly enhance their feeling about the work. It's going to enhance their feeling about or how they approach work, their motivation, their outputs, their outcomes. So let's stop thinking about work in number or in the number of hours that they work, and let's start thinking about how can we produce the most productive workers by giving them the ability to choose. Now, I know that I'll get pushback on, well, what if we have a meeting at that time? And what if we need them to be there, right? Like, set the expectation, right? It's just like unlimited PTO, right? Like, you can take all the PTO in the world that you want to. Great. But the expectation, and you have to say this, you can't just think it and hope that they understand your mind talk. You have to say it. You have to be able to say, okay, you have unlimited PTO, but whenever we have something due, let's make sure that we don't schedule any PTO for that time. Or if you are on PTO, we might need an hour or two of your time, right? So you have to be transparent. You have to give them the ability to do that, but then you also have to set guidelines and boundaries and expectations. So, okay, I think I beat that down enough. The third segment and the last segment of this episode is environmental benefits, which we kind of touched upon them a little bit. But working from home can also have a positive impact on the environment, right? Without the need to commute, remote workers reduce their carbon footprint, which is huge right now, and contribute to a cleaner environment. This can help mitigate the effects of climate change and improve air quality in cities. Additionally, remote work can reduce the need for office space, leading to lower energy consumption and a smaller carbon footprint for companies. Again, I'm going to quote the stat. By 2025, the majority of the workforce will be millennials and Gen Zers. And if we think about what do those generations care about the most, it's one of those factors is climate change. If we look at these companies that are being built right now and how much money is being put into these companies, you're seeing sustainability companies, people who are helping larger communities, larger companies lower their carbon footprint and create a cleaner environment, right? So that is clearly saying that this is important to people. It's also a recruitment tool, right? Look, I mean, if you can promote that you have reduced your carbon footprint compared to a competitor, and you're speaking to a Gen Zer specifically, they're more likely to go with you over the other company, right? So just think about these things. It's going to help the environment. It's going to help the world so we can live long enough to make the workplace better. All right. So those are the three things: productivity, work-life balance or harmony, environmental benefits. So in conclusion, as we wrap up this episode, the benefits of working from home are numerous. Increased productivity, a work-life harmony, and environmental benefits are just a few of the advantages, and we'll talk about more throughout the next few episodes. And this might turn into a new entire podcast. We'll still talk about the things that we have talked about, but like I mentioned before, it's going to be very much focused on making the workplace better. So, but with the rise of remote work, I wanted to do this episode, and with building the software that I'm working on, I wanted to go ahead and start diving into the things that I'm most passionate about. But I appreciate you so much for staying around to this part of the episode. And if you like this episode, please follow, please leave a 5-star review and share it with somebody who might be interested in learning a little bit more about the benefits of remote work. Or if you have somebody out there who is a little bit concerned or in disbelief of remote work and how we can actually be productive, create a work-life harmony, and help the environment. Again, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.